All right, so again, not true quiz, just a practice problem. So we have this sequence here. I'm going to write that down here so just we could see a little bit better. So it's 220. 180, 140, and then 100. Okay, so we have that sequence. And what we want to figure out for number 11 is describe how you go from one term of the sequence to the next. So in other words, what am I adding, subtracting, or multiplying, dividing to get from one guy to the next? And what you should notice, if you do this correctly, to go from here to here, we are actually subtracting 40. And then we got to make sure it's the same thing. In a sequence, it always would be the same change. So whatever change we're doing, so in this case we're changing by negative 40 or subtracting 40, it should work for all of them. That's what makes a sequence a sequence. And again, if you do that, it does work for all of them. We get minus 40 each time, gives us the next number. Okay, so for number 11, I would put my answer as we are subtracting 40. Okay, number 11 is that simple. We are done with that. Let me erase this because we're going to need some room here. All right. Number 12, it says find B11. Okay. So what we want to do is understand that this letter is letting us know that my function, which is represented by my sequence, the name of my sequence or function is B. Okay? And so we want the 11th guy, so the 11th number or the 11th term, and my function B. Okay, so we're just going to continue to subtract 40 until I get to the 11th term. So 100 minus 40, 60, 60 minus 40, 20, 20 minus 40, negative 20, negative 20 minus 40, negative 60, negative 60 minus 40, negative 100, negative 100 minus 40, negative 140, negative 180, negative 220, negative 260. Again, you can use your calculator for this. You're allowed to have negative numbers in the sequence. Negative 300. Okay, I'm just going to keep going to see negative 340. All right, we'll stop there. Let's see if we have enough to answer at least number 12. So if we're putting it, this is function notation. So function notation looks like this. N. The reason I know it's N because I see we're using the variable N for our input. So this is our input. And this is our output, or X and Y, if you think of it that way. So our input is N, and our output is B of N. Okay, so if you think about this input-output table, it would look like this. And this is function format. And this is what we got to get used to because we're going to deal a lot with functions. All right, and essentially we're making an input-output table. So I know it's not the best, but it'll work. So this would be 1, first term, second term, third term, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13, 14, and 15. Okay, and we could continue if you wanted to. So what we want here is we want B11. So what that means is if I find the 11th term in my function B, it would give me negative 180. So function B with the 11th term is going to be negative 180. Okay. Now, this means the same thing, but this is subscript notation. We're still looking at function B, and we want the 15th term. So in function notation, it would look like this. In subscript notation, we have this. It means the same thing, guys. So B15, B sub 15, that's how you say it, B subscript 15. My answer is negative 340. Okay, pretty simple. Number 14, graph the terms of the sequence as an ordered pair. So we're only going to graph what we were given. We're not going to graph the whole thing. So we're going to graph the first term, second term, third term, and fourth term. So we're going to think of this as an input-output table. Input, output. And when we do input-output, our input is the first number, our output is the second number. So we can turn it into a point. We've done this in the previous weeks. Input is 2, output is 180. Input is 3, output is 140. And then the fourth term, input is 4, output is 100. So again, like I mentioned last time we met, your sequence, in essence, is just your output of your function. So think of this as just, when it says sequence, we're looking at just an output of a function. The input is the term. What number do we want? We want the 7th term. So our input is 7. Our output is negative 20. Okay? So now we're just going to graph these three guys. So let's draw a graph. You know, let's make it a little bit better. Okay, so on the bottom, which is going to be our input. In this case, our input is the value of n, so it's no longer x. We're using the variable n as our input. And our y-axis is our output, which is b of n. Okay, so we have 4, and then over here, we're going to go from 220 to 100. So I'm going to go by 50s here. So this is 50, 100, 150, 200, 250. Okay, and then we're going to plot these points. 1, 220, right in here somehow. All right, and then 2, 180 is closer to 200, so we'll put it here. Then we got 3, 140, which is right below 150, something like that, and then 4, 100. And what you'll notice is we should have some type of line. Anytime you add or subtract to get to the next term, your graph should always look like a line because it's a constant. Describe how the graph changes from one term to the next. Remember from last time, we're going to use the vocabulary word rate of change in our answer. So how do we describe it? So if my graph, does it go, as we go left to right, is it going up or down? As you can see, it's going down. So rate of change is decreasing. Okay, and we actually know it's decreasing specifically by -40. So if we want, we could actually put that. It's decreasing constantly, because it's always is doing the same thing. Constantly means it looks like a line by -40. Okay, so this is very specific here, because we have a lot of information. So it's going down, decreasing. We know it's changing. How's it going down? We're going down 40 each dot, 40 each dot, 40 each dot. Okay? And it's constant. It doesn't change from one to the next. It's a straight line. This is where we're going to start heading in this direction starting next week. If you notice, in order to find the 15th term, I got to make this list, which is a headache. Imagine if they asked for the 100th term. I'll be here forever, okay? So what we're going to start heading to in next week is we're going to start writing rules for this. Remember rules? Rules are just equations. And these rules are going to give us these answers really fast. So the rule will allow us to find the 100th term without making this huge list. Okay, and that's where we're headed next week. All right. That's it for my end. Okay, foot. And now I'm going to show you the quiz problem. So here is your quiz problem. Put this on your own piece of paper. Okay, and then upload this today. Once you're done with the Zoom quiz, you've checked in. I encourage you to make up any works before progress report, but you are dismissed at that point.